a good idea if I did that. There we go. That cording allows us to not have to have the interference that we were getting from cell phones and outside traffic. So in order to use those microphones, if you'll look at the front, there's a little, what looks like a face with some sound coming out of it. That is your on button. We cannot have more than 7 of these on at once. So if you can kind of get in the habit of hitting that button when you talk and then turning it off when you're not talking, if we have 7 people on and the 8th person tries to turn their microphone on, it'll just sit there. It won't work. So that's tutorial number 1. Number 2, Teresa is kind of filling in for us in the minutes taking area, and she doesn't know any of your names, and your name tags are sideways. So when you say something in particular, when you make a motion or second, if you could say your name when you do that, that would help her out a lot. And I don't remember the third part of the tutorial, but I'm sure it'll come up at some point.
It'll come up. Okay, so we've introduced the members of the RAC. There are a couple that have just come in, Jody and Jean. So if you would introduce yourselves, and then we'll take on with the other members that are or representatives that are at the meeting in the audience.
The face.
Hi, I'm Jen Nemo. I'm with Community Health Partnership, and as of next week, I'll be with the Colorado Community Health Alliance for New Ray.
All right, Chief.
Good morning, Jody Barker with the Alzheimer's Association Central Colorado region.
And the other, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The other thing I forgot to mention about the microphone is don't do what I just did. Don't do this, because then you get too loud. So these microphones are way more sensitive than the old ones, so you are able to just talk in a normal tone of voice right where you're sitting.
Joe, which button did you say we push?
It's the one just to the right of center.
Second from the right.
Second?
Second from the left. No, from the right, you're right.
That one right there. Okay, I got it.
The other thing you'll notice is that there's a little red ring right around the microphone that comes on when it's on, so that lets you know whether you're active or not.
If you're not going to use it, you're supposed to turn it off.
I'm Jerry Novak, Colorado Springs.
Okay. And then members of the audience, if you introduce yourselves.
I'm Dixie Wodell, Fountain Valley Senior Center. CCMD, Colorado Center Metropolitan District.
Okay.
And I'm Norman Wodell from the Fountain Valley Senior Center, currently the President of the Board of Directors. Dave Summers, Invita. Dave Bonner from Next Day Access.
Kath Ellis, Silver King.
Bill Bowl, Park County Senior Coalition.
Margaret Zimmerman, Wendy Patterson, Mountain Metro Transit.
Well, thank you very much. I'd just like to note that we do have a quorum, and summertime like this, sometimes we're searching for members, but we definitely have a quorum, so this is an official meeting. Now that we've gone through the introductions, we have a couple consent items. The agenda is before us, or it will be on the screen, I'm not sure. I don't know that we need it on the screen. There should be a copy. Basically, the agenda's here. It's a consent item, and the other are also on the consent item are the minutes from the May 31st meeting, which was held up in Guffey, which I did not attend. So, pardon?
It was fun.
I heard it was fun. Those that made the trip up to Guffey, I'm sure it was quite an experience again.
I move acceptance of both of the consent items.
And okay, Jerry Novak moved, and Phyllis seconded.
Phyllis, okay. And you're here, so she's not capturing.
She's busy. We'll get back. I'll write it down for you.
Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so by consent, we've passed the agenda and the minutes. Are there any public comments from things that are not on the agenda? Anybody wish to address the Regional Advisory Council?
I'd like to add something in if nobody has any public comments. Actually, Barbara, are you still back there?
I am.
Can you stand up and talk about this sheet that sits in front of folks?
she need to be on the microphone?
Turn one of those mics on for her,
Maybe
if you
stand
wouldn't
up here
mind.
even.
Okay.
Is it on?
Yep, it's on.
We've been collecting information on the achievements that the case managers, the ombudsman, and the caregiver support have done through the year, and this is the information written down, so you can see where the cost savings have been and how hard we're really working. And it's all written out here now for the first time, I think, that we've done this. So we put it on a placemat. You can take it with you. Please feel free. If you find any extra ones, take them with you as well and pass them out. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to be here for a little while. I don't know that I'll be here the whole meeting, but thank you.
Thanks. Just a way to kind of illustrate all the hard work that goes on around here. These will be used in meeting settings like this. We'll use these in congregate meal settings as well. Just one more way for us to kind of tell a story. And there was a lot of hard work that went in from the information and assistance folks, from our volunteers that work the SHIP program, to put all these numbers together and kind of give people an idea. And there's some pretty amazing numbers, particularly when you start looking at the number of dollars that we save folks who might otherwise spend those dollars inappropriately.
I'd just like to commend the group for putting this together. I think it's very, very helpful and useful for us and for informing our friends and coworkers and relatives and everybody else in our local areas. To me, it really pulls together or kind of focuses, I guess, our efforts and shows the impact that we're having. I mean, as far as volunteer members of the Regional Advisory Council, we're looking at programs and service providers, and one of them is the AAA itself. And we look at this and we say, well, by golly, there really is significant work that's ongoing that sometimes we're not aware of. We hear bits and pieces, but this kind of summarizes it very nicely in a colorful and very factual, detailed layout. The only other comment I would throw would be that, okay, overall, if you're looking at this, you're saying, okay, so this is what was accomplished in 2017. Is there a trend line going upward, downward, flatlining, or anything else that we could kind of see going forward? Because this says this is what's been accomplished, but the other piece that might be worthwhile would be, okay, so in the context of state and federal funding, are we going to be able to sustain this, or is it somewhat troubled? Because if it's troubled, then that's another point that we need to be making to those people that we share this with. Hey, we need support. We need the Congress. We need state legislators and others to support these types of things. So that's just on the top of the mind commentary at this point. Anybody else reflections on this? Again, I think it's really, really well done and very much needed. Okay, so to the next thing. Any other comments? Okay, that's great. I think it's a very worthwhile initiative. Okay, so if there are no other further public comments, then we're on to special presentations. And first one up, Joint Dispatch and Call Center, Craig Blewett from Mountain Metropolitan Transit. Okay.
I don't think it's on, Craig.
Second from the right.
The middle one, just a little to the right of the middle. There we go.
Check.
There we go.
Good morning. Craig Blewett, Director of Mountain Metro Transit. I'm actually the Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs, but in that capacity I serve as Director of Mountain Metro Transit, and that's how the public knows us. I want to do just a quick introduction. Brian Champion is here. Brian is our Mobility Coordinator. That's a new position. We had a Mobility Manager in the region, and you may recall Angel Bond, who worked for PPACG for a period of time, served as a mobility manager. We sort of retooled that position. It's now part of Mountain Metro Transit, and Brian has taken the helm on that. And we're here this morning to give a presentation on the what we call One Ride, which is a one-call, one-click joint call center that we've established. And really, Brian has all the information. I'll just turn right over to Brian.
Thanks.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you for the opportunity to present this item. On Sunday, July 1st, Mountain Metro Transit will begin operating a consolidated one-call, one-click call center where requests for transportation will be managed, referrals and trip planning will occur, and where the community's transportation needs will be quantified. And I'll walk you through how and why a call center came about and describe its benefits. Just a reminder of what Mountain Metro provides the community. Our fixed route service operates along 27 routes, providing about 3 million trips per year, with an estimated 300,000 trips taken by seniors and 200,000 trips by people with disabilities. Mountain Metro is our ADA paratransit service for people unable to use fixed route. It's a demand responsive service requiring customers to call in advance to reserve a trip. Metro Mobility operates a call center to take reservations and schedule trips. On average, they provide 165,000 trips, 11,000 of those using taxis. Specialized transportation is a service for seniors and people with disabilities. A larger service area and a level of care above what's required by the ADA, as well as including senior citizens, defines the above and beyond character of the service. This is also a demand response service. Over 39,000 trips were provided last year using $800,000 in city and RTA funds. The service model for specialized transportation has been in place for many years and works like this. The city contracts with 4 human service providers, HSPs, to provide specialized transportation trips. To reserve a trip, customers call HSPs directly, requiring each HSP to operate a call center. At times, customers may have to call more than one HSP to find the desired trip time. Trip cost is not a consideration in the reservation process with this model. Over the years, PPACG members and stakeholders have looked at this service delivery model and seen areas where the community could benefit from some modifications, recommending the consolidation of call center activities to lower administrative costs by minimizing duplicate services, to make it more convenient for the public to access transportation options by creating a one point of contact service, to expand service and expand the number of organizations providing services. These themes are reflected in recommendations and preferred alternatives in these planning documents. The response to these recommendations is a nexus for One Ride. This slide shows One Ride's dual functions, and I'll review these in later slides. Here is the specialized transportation branch of One Ride, and I'll expand on these activities and its benefits. In the short term, a centralized call center means one call, one-click access to all city and RTA-funded trips. With One Ride, we'll look at the availability at each HSP to ensure a trip closest to the customer's desired time. Another benefit is increased access to reservationists. One Ride will be open Monday through Sunday, 8 to 5, so a caller will have live answer access to a reservationist every day. We've offered to answer weekend calls going to HSPs as a service enhancement. Since we'll be reserving all city and RTA trips, we'll be able to identify opportunities to group trips, sending one bus instead of 2. We'll also be looking at lowering costs by brokering trips. Brokering is simply assigning trips based on trip cost, and I'll circle back to this in the next slide. By centralizing calls, One Ride will be in a more informed position to determine if our services are meeting the community's needs, and if not, to pursue more responsive solutions. Midterm benefits include expanding service to after hours and weekends and enlarging the service area to reach outlying areas. We'll do this by expanding the number of providers. Since one ride will be reserving trips, this should reduce staffing needs at HSPs and translate into lower administrative costs. And I've made a point to say one ride will be reserving and assigning city and RTA trips. HSPs use other funds to provide trips, Area Agency on Aging being one of the largest funding sources. HSPs have chosen to continue making these reservations. We're hoping our success managing city and RTA trips will convince them that a call center activities, including AAA trips, should be consolidated with one ride. And that's about 55,000 trips per year. Moreover, we'll be practicing what we preach. We'll be consolidating the Metro Mobility Call Center with one ride, allowing us to shift resources from administration to operations. Each of these consolidation efforts will translate into more trips for the senior and disabled community. So brokering trips is another way we'll do more with the same funding. We've asked HSPs to provide the fully burdened cost of a trip. Shown here is the cost of a 5-mile trip. So Agency A will provide that trip at a cost just over $13. Since this is the lowest cost solution, we'll offer this trip to Agency A and as many other 5-mile trips they can handle. Once Agency A has reached capacity, we'll begin assigning trips to Agency C, the next lowest cost solution. But notice 2 trips can be made with Agency A for every 1 trip with Agency C. When Agency C's capacity is reached, we'll move on to Agency B. Here's the pricing for a 5 to 10-mile trip. Because they are the lowest cost solution, we'll assign as many trips with Agency A as possible. There are other considerations besides cost that might limit our flexibility: clientele, location of buses, and scheduling considerations. But cost will be our starting place. Here are the remaining trip costs. We'll be assigning as many trips as possible with Agency B for 10, 15, and 20-mile trips.
Are those round trips?
One-way trips.
One way.
This slide shows a regional transportation branch of one ride. For residents and visitors, knowing how to get around town and who to call to get that information can be challenging. To address this challenge, we are assembling an inventory of all, or nearly all, transportation providers in the Pikes Peak region. With this information, we'll be able to make need-based referrals and be stitching together individualized trip plans and coordinating trips among providers. Growing a transportation database is another important function we'll bring to our community. Being on the receiving end of questions about transportation will enable us to quantify the community's need, passing along that information to this committee to consider as you make regional transportation decisions. And listed here are some of the programs we are interested in pursuing: a veterans-focused van pool, voluntary driver and mileage reimbursement programs, and a call-a-ride service to bring customers from outlying areas into our service area. We've made a lot of progress bringing one ride to fruition. The call center is complete. The phone system is operational. We are working on the software interface and are consolidating a customer database. And contracts are being circulated among HSPs. During the first 3 months, we will transition the service from customers calling HSPs directly to calling one ride directly. This will ease ourselves, HSPs, and customers through the transition period. We'll use this time to get to know our customers, build a rapport, and gain their trust. We'll also be implementing our marketing plan, which includes a direct mail campaign, distribution of flyers at major trip generators and service organizations, presentations to senior centers and service organizations, and a radio and TV spots promoting one ride. Now, there will be challenges to ourselves and our HSPs and our customers, but we hope our approach outlined here will address those challenges. Thank you for the opportunity to present one ride to you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes?
Can you use the microphone, make sure you're on? And identify yourself, too.
Joyce Whittle, Park County. Do you happen to have any printouts of this PowerPoint, or can you send it by email?
Yes, what I can do is provide it, and maybe
Just
Joe.
shoot it. Yeah, just shoot it.
Teresa
Us. We'll
can-
get it out to you, Joyce, sure.
Okay, by email?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Anything else?
Norma?
Are
Yes.
you keeping
Are you
the
on?
same-
Norma Garbani, AAA. Are you keeping the same HSPs that you've had in the past, and are you adding additional ones?
We are keeping the same HSPs, so it'll be Silver Key and Vita, Fountain Valley Senior Center, and Community Intersections. And at this time, at least in the short run, we're not anticipating adding any new providers. But that is something that could be in the future.
Are there any individuals who are drivers for you, or are they all with companies?
Yeah, right now they're all with the HSPs. We don't employ any drivers.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Jerry?
Jerry Novak, Colorado Springs. How does the Uber and Lyft thing fit into this?
Right now, they don't. So we're just exclusively using the HSPs, but as I said, that is one of the ways we can expand our service and our service areas is by bringing in some other providers.
Thank you.
Dixie Herring, the Independent Center. How does consumer choice fit into this model?
So if, and we anticipate that'll be a situation where someone has ridden with an HSP for many years and may be hesitant to try another service. So by policy, we will not deny anyone that trip. So if they want to continue with Silver Key or Invita or the Fountain Valley Senior Center, we'll book that trip that way. But we will take every opportunity to let them know that if they do select another provider, it may, there's more capacity with the other providers, so they may get the time that they want. And then also let them know, that if it's that $13 trip that they're choosing, that's wonderful. If it's the more expensive one, we'll let them know that we could probably make 2 trips with that cost instead of 1. But again, to answer your question, we will not deny someone that trip.
Norma Garbani, AAA. Are the prices that were on the screen those that will be charged to the consumer?
Great question. I should have prefaced that. No, that's the cost that the HSP are charging us, Mountain Metro, for that trip. That's not the charge to the customer.
Do you have set prices then for certain trips, for distances?
For the customer? Or?
Yes.
No, at this time the trip is fare free.
Free?
Yes, fare free. So we've encouraged HSPs to charge a fare. However, they have chosen to use contributions to fill that. So to the customer, it's a voluntary contribution.
And Brian, without getting into a whole lot of detail, I think this group's pretty well educated on funding, so you might just tell where your funding comes from.
Our funding comes from the City of Colorado Springs and RTA, so the Regional Transportation, or Rural Transportation Authority. Yes.
Joyce Whittle, Park County. I thought you had said at one point that you bring people from outside to the service area?
That was one of the programs we're looking at as part of our regional transportation program. So we intend on administering a pilot project. It's called microtransit. So a lot of folks we want to serve, but they're out of our service area.
Right.
If we can find a low-cost solution to just bring them from where they are into our service area, then we can service them with fixed route or ADA paratransit service.
Okay.
So that would be a pilot project that we're looking to implement.
Okay.
Dave Betzler, Northern El Paso County Monument. Just a sort of a question on the plans going forward. This is a great consolidation, if you will, and I think it's a very necessary step. But just looking as you look at other ways to touch other parts of the region, are you actively engaged, for example, with the Mountain Community Senior Services up in northern El Paso County? Are you talking with them, or at least saying, okay, here's what we're doing on the regional basis, and we want you to be participant in future planning activities or discussions?
I think that's in the great plan. I've been reaching out to the Veterans Affairs, I've been out to Cripple Creek and Teller County Senior Services. So, yeah, we're working all of the regional angles here. So that is the desire, to have a regional transportation clearinghouse.
Okay, so have you really talked with the folks at Monument then?
I have not.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I haven't made it to Monument.
I'll give you some contact information on that then.
Perfect.
You bet.
And if I could say, that's one of the benefits of coming to committees like this, is to find out about who's providing services and who may be providing transportation that we're not aware of.
Right.
So as we build that inventory, it'd be great to have anyone's input if you know of a service or an agency that provides that.
Right. And I think that's one of those things that volunteer agencies like MCSS and Fountain Valley and the rest of it, I mean, they're really well established in the community. It's a matter of maybe on a pilot basis, you look at a dialogue with them, say, in 18 months, 2 years. Okay, then let's try to do something.
Yes.
And I think that's really an important piece to, from the outset, at least have that in, and I think you probably do, a consideration that, okay, we want to make sure that we're touching as far out as we can. I'm not sure if there's a possibility of getting out to where Phyllis is in eastern El Paso County, but I mean, it's one of those things that from a regional perspective at least
Yes.
has to be on the agenda.
Yes, thank you, David.
Other questions or comments?
Just like to add a few comments. As Brian touched on, this has been a recommendation that's been in the region for a long time. Probably been bouncing around for 20 years. It's currently a recommendation of the Regional Transportation Plan here at PPACG. And one of the things that PPACG does as an organization is that it is responsible for ensuring that the region has a long-range transit and transportation plan. So this has actually been part of the last 3 plans, and it's been kicked around for some time. Mountain Metro took the lead on the project about the last year and a half, and we're very proud to have the point at where it is today. It's an important project for a couple reasons. One is it's better for the customer. It's one call you make, and you're going to get the best ride you can with that one call for the rides that we fund. It's also better for coordination in terms of coordinating the 4 independently operating human service providers, and it also eliminates some of the duplication in terms of reservations and scheduling by having one dispatch center handling all those things. And also equally important is we're going to be getting a lot better information in terms of the rides that are requested and the rides that are provided. Are there denials? Are there rides that we could not provide? Where are most of the rides coming from? We really don't have a complete picture of that today. By running it through this one call center and booking the trips on software, we'll be able to generate reports in terms of how well we're serving the community. And we're really excited about that. That's probably equally important on top of everything else. The question on Uber and Lyft, by the way, so remember the second function of the call center is just is it being a clearinghouse for transportation information, for ride information. So when someone is new to the community, maybe new to the community as a senior, newly a senior, or anyone else, maybe a visitor, and just calling for ride information, they can call One Ride and get information about how they can get to where they're going. So we may be able to provide that ride on our fixed route bus system. 3/4 of all the rides for seniors is on our fixed route bus system. Maybe there's an opportunity there, maybe with one of our human service providers. And if not, then we can direct them to Uber and Lyft as the best option, or the cab company as well. So we want to be that source of information so people can get where they need to go. So it's a really important project. We're really proud to have it where we are. We're excited that Sunday is the first day. It's been a lot of work. And the group back here, led by Brian and Wendy and Jacob, has really come a long way, and we're just really excited to be where we are.
Well, I think on behalf of the RAC, I think we're all very pleased with the progress that's been made and the implementation that's right here. I mean, as you've said, there's been a lot of work that's gone on by a lot of different people for a lot of them for
Yes.
quite a few years. Just quickly touching on the benefits again. So what I'm hearing is that it decreases costs, it increases the efficiency, it increases the services provided, and it results in an engaged community, or a bit more engaged community. And there are plans to continue it. Sustainment doesn't appear to be a challenge or a problem, and I think that the effort is going forward to try to extend out through pilot projects and partnerships to make more transportation available, the access to it for people in the region. Jody?
What number will customers begin calling for that central?
Just call One Ride. So on keypad, I don't know what the number is. 663 7433. But if you have the push buttons with the letters on there, you can find it with one ride as well.
Another question over here. Norma?
What is the marketing, for the lack of a better word, so that seniors know about this?
A couple of things, and Brian, do you want
Yeah.
to touch on that? You're closer to that than I am.
We've sent out mailers to active riders, and we'll do that again next week. We'll have radio and TV spots, and we're making presentations to senior centers and groups like the Independence Center. We were there yesterday. So that's how we're getting the word out. And then what we would like to do is direct call a lot of our customers and explain what one ride is. So they should be receiving a call. Yeah.
If I could make a quick comment, I saw some blank looks on people's faces when Brian was talking about costs. Trips, generally speaking, are always one-way trips. So if you go to the doctor and you come back, that's actually 2 trips. And I think a lot of people don't realize the costs that are associated with transportation in general. You know, we think of the $2 donation or $3.50 fee or whatever it is. In our region, a trip costs one side or the other of $20 usually, somewhere in that vicinity. So it's not a cheap thing to do. I think the consumer doesn't always see the big picture in that every time you get on one of those vehicles, it's about $20 plus or minus.
Is that one way?
That's one way. So if you go to the doctor and back,
It's $40.
it's roughly $40. Sometimes it's less, and that's kind of what Brian was talking about. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more.
Not my place.
It's a little bit more to get you in here, Phyllis.
Well, thank you again.
Other questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have a question here.
Would it be possible for you to email me that, a flyer on this, so that I can get it posted at the Citizen Service Center? We have got a tremendously huge number of citizens that use the transit system, and we have a lot of senior citizens that would be one way of getting this new program out, publicize it for you.
Yeah, happy to do that, Fran.
Yes.
We do have RAC cards we've developed for just that purpose, that you could stack where people can just take a card with them with that information and contact information.
Terrific.
So we're happy to give that to you.
You can just put a little thing right on your door as people walk by.
Thank you very much.
That's what I wanted to do.
The information items are the next part of the agenda, and this is for Dex Day Access Colorado. Dave Weiner.
I can't see it. Yeah, ways away. Okay.
Brian, while he's doing that, one other thing pops into mind here. For example, like Silver Key is one of the biggest providers, so I'm wondering what's their reaction to the one ride? Pat, do you have any comments you could kind of throw out that would kind of put an overview spin on how successful and how pleased you are with this?
We're evaluating. I think that one of the things that I've often said to Mountain Metro is Silver Key and Fountain Valley, and not speaking for you, we are service providers, we're not transit agencies, and our focus is on servicing our clients from a different perspective.
Right.
So the rides that are funded through the city, yes, we have to use that service. We don't know whether or not we're going to do that for our AAA funded rides. We need to evaluate that. In the past, we've run into some challenges in terms of the requirement that the city used to require that we charge $3.50 for the rides that they provided. we could not charge for AAA rides. It caused confusion for our clients. So for us, it's a wait and see. I have to say my board has been resistant.
Okay.
And I think Invita has had the same experience. I can't speak for Fountain Valley in terms of their feelings towards it. I think Dixie's question about client choice was real significant because we do find that our average client is 73 and has a certain comfort level in riding with the provider that they've been with for years. And oftentimes when they call our reservations, it's not necessarily just to schedule a ride. It's about a conversation about their well-being. And I can't really answer that question.
Okay.
Ask me a year from now.
I think that's very valid. I guess I wish I would have brought that up earlier because I think it's really important to hear that aspect. I think from Mountain Metro and the consolidation, that's really a good thing, and it improves all those positive benefits that have been laid out. But then it really gets down to, okay, the seniors or the folks with limited mobility or something else, and how they react and interact with that system as it rolls out. And I think that what you've said for Silver Key, Pat, is probably reflected from Fountain Valley. And I'm not sure about Invita. Same thing?
Well, I would say...
Maybe identify yourself, please.
Dave Summers with Invita. One of Pat's comments I think is really important, and that is that when you're dealing with vulnerable populations, the way in which you lessen anxiety is by providing consistency. And a lot of these folks they develop relationships with the agency and with the driver. And to, I don't want to say bounce around, but by providing more options than they necessarily want, can bring that anxiety level right back up. They aren't necessarily looking for the low-cost provider. They're looking for the driver and the agency that they are most comfortable.
Excellent point. Yeah. Brian, come on back up. I guess, Dave, just take a moment here. Sorry.
I should have left the zip drive over there. Pat and Dave have definitely raised concerns that they have before in our implementation meetings, and they're valid concerns. There is a lot of anxiety just with people changing or offered a new phone number, a new voice as a reservationist. Yesterday I was listening to a paratransit call. A woman asked, well, who am I speaking to? She didn't recognize the voice. And then Mitzi said, this is Mitzi. And she said, oh, Mitzi, I didn't recognize your voice. How are you? So then the conversation completely changed. So again, one of those challenges for us is to build that rapport with our customers. There's a high standard of care that HSPs have maintained, and we want to maintain that. I think we'll grow out of that challenge as we offer other services to a client. If, as I said, they refuse or it's too much of a challenge for them, we respect that. But as we look forward into the future years, as we anticipate that senior tsunami, we have to accommodate all that demand. And our revenues are not keeping pace with the cost of the service. So what's an alternative is to try to get a little bit more efficiency out of the system. So those that come into the system from now on, they'll be used to maybe riding two providers, maybe going out Silver Key and coming back in Vita or on the county. So it's going to be a challenge. There's no sugarcoating that. But I think we'll grow out of that. And for those that are insistent that they don't want to try a new service, we won't force them to. We'll book them on the provider that they've been used to taking.
Jody Barker with Alzheimer's Association. Will this entirely replace direct calls to the current service providers, or will individuals still be able to call Silver Key because they have multiple needs?
Right. As we said, they have funding, the AAA funding that we're not going to be booking reservations for, at least in the foreseeable future. We would like to, because that gives even more efficiency, but they could call an HSP directly and use alternative funding. Yes. So that is an option.
Well, I think this last few-minute discussion has been very helpful to put it in a different context, and the one that we really deal with here from the individual service providers. And I think I just apologize for not asking the HSAs to really comment and their view on this thing. I think it's an innovative approach, and I think it makes sense from I'll say from a centralization consolidation perspective. But I think that we're all kind of very probably cautiously optimistic that the impact on the individuals that are needing of and deserving of those services are not disrupted or it's not disturbed. So it'll be interesting. 6 months from now, maybe there's maybe it's a timeout. You have a halfway through the first year. Let's see, where are we right now? What have we uncovered? What are the impacts on Envita and Mountain Community, or Fountain Valley and Silver Key? And how is that rolling out for the community? I think that'd be a worthwhile thing from a RAC perspective to hear something like that.
Well, I committed to the last MCC meeting to coming back in October. I can do the same thing here and
That'd
give you
great.
kind of a heads up of
October, November sounds great.
Where we are. And if
we all want to do what's best for the community.
Yeah.
Exactly. It would be nice to hear from the HSAs as far as, okay, well, their review, or not the review, but their comments on where we are with this overall one-call program. If we could incorporate that into an agenda in October, November would be great. I think it'd be very worthwhile for the community.
Yes.
This is a question that's familiar for the RAC board. How can Park County perhaps be accommodated? And it's very big, it's broad, and in bringing services to Park County, do you envision anything of this sort happening?
Well, right now we're kind of Pikes Peak focused. However, we reached out. I've met a few times with the new mobility manager in Cripple Creek and see where we can coordinate. If we can somehow submit joint applications for grants to provide inter-city transit, maybe we could expand that to Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they do that, then they might come out east.
Maybe they would. Do you have a card, sir?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Second, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Dave, I think it's really time for you and next day access.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Dave. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. I'm already loaded, so I'm good to go. I'm Dave Bonner with Next Day Access. We do home accessibility and bathroom safety. I'll be fairly brief. What we're really trying to do is to keep people in their homes a little bit longer, a little bit safer. They're happier in their homes. They're healthier in their homes. It's less expensive for them to stay in their homes than to go to a facility someplace. So we try to achieve that through installing safety devices in their home. And people are very happy when we leave the house. If we can prevent a fall or add some confidence to their day or life, they're pretty happy. We do all kinds of things. Not all of these things kind of fall under the grant that we work on here. But we do stair lifts, porch lifts, we do portable ramps, and we've started to do some portable ramps this year. We do a lot of grab bars, we do all kinds of things in the bathrooms, and you'll see a little bit of that. We are an age-friendly certified business through the BBB. We are A+ rated. And despite some funding interruptions that we had this year, because it was an interesting funding year, we still serviced over 125 individual clients this year. We did have kind of a probably close to a 3-month interruption. 3 months? Probably close to it, yeah. 3-month interruption in funding where we kind of just stopped doing this. And people were very upset with me on the phone. It really brought out their true colors. A lot of things we do to keep people happy and safe is we do exterior railings. So that's kind of the stairs they had, and we built a railing and another railing. We've started to do metal railings. I have a welder that does a lot of work for me, and he does it very, very inexpensively. And we do a lot of welding now. And people are really, really happy. And I tell them, it's just a very basic railing. That's what we provide under the AAA for AAA money. If you want something fancy schmancy, that's going to kind of come from you. Just because what we're really trying to do is we're trying to get people the most bang for the buck. I'm trying to service the most amount of people I can on the funding that we have. So I'll provide you with a basic railing like that, but if you want something over and above, sometimes the grant will pay for some of it, but if you want 34 feet of wrought iron railing down your sidewalk, obviously you really don't need our assistance with paying for that. And one thing we do find is that people aren't just looking to get something for free, they're looking for someone that they can trust. That goes back to some of the things we were talking about with transport. They're looking for, they say, oh, well, if my home health care provider says that you're a trustworthy person, they call us. And then it's a matter of negotiating what we can provide for them. We do a lot of interior banisters. Code says that you have to have one banister down a flight of stairs. A lot of people who, if their left hand isn't good, they need a banister on the right hand. So we go in and we do a lot of these kind of railings. We do a lot of these. We call these for people who are shufflers. Everybody knows what a shuffler is. And we try to match the woodwork in the house. We do our best to do that. And a lot of these houses we go into where you see that kind of railing, you can usually see the hand mark down the wall from them shuffling down the hallway. So this really increases their confidence in the house. They're very happy when they have one of these down their hallway. We started to do a lot of toilet safety frames. People are just really happy with this kind of stuff. Little things that make them happy. And of course, again, this year we did lots and lots and lots of grab bars. We've installed over 300 grab bars this year. It's hard for me to keep track. I don't keep track of them that way by individuals, but people love these things.
Dave, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Because we've had private conversations in regards to a lot of the things that you do on behalf of the grant. So if you're going in for one, let's say a grab bar, and you notice that they're a little uncertain, as well as maybe needing that handrail along the hallway as well, how comfortable are you with being able to provide more, be able to layer those services on top of each other on behalf of that person in regards to the grant?
We do it all the time.
Okay.
And some of the things are, and I'll get to that a little bit in a minute. Some of the things we work. Some of the things that's Wendy Farr, by the way. Some of the things are, we are, part of installing a grab bar is interacting with the person. How tall are you? Do you get in on the left side? Do you get in on the right side? Do you bathe? Do you shower? You're 5 foot nothing, your husband's 6'3", we have to put in a bigger bar. So part of that is a conversation, and the conversation will generally lead to, oh yeah, well I can't get up and down the stairs, or so once they've established the rapport, they kind of open up. And some of the things we can help them with, and some of the things that their daughter doesn't call them enough, that's maybe a referral back to AAA for something. So yes, we do look at that.
Well, I just know in our conversations that we've had that was one of the things that is a good thing that you're able to do. But then again, there's those person who wants the 30 feet of the wrought iron, and how do you say, okay, can pay for that,
right?
Can do for this.
We really try to say yes. There are just some things that people, we kind of drew the line. When I speak to people on the phone, or Monique speaks to someone on the phone, we generally say we try to limit it to 3 grab bars per house. And then, if they say, well, can I have one more here, you make them feel really special, and you say, well, I can get you a 4th one. Don't tell the boss. And they go, who's the boss? I say, well, I'm the boss. So we try to make them feel good and that they're getting something special. But we had a lady last year who ran one of my installers around. She had 11 grab bars installed in the house. And at that point, we had just opened up that door. So we continued down that hallway with this lady. And that was a point where we said, we've really got to try to limit this. Because there are just people who take advantage. So we try to just, at the get-go, not let them take advantage of the system or game the system. And I understand that there's no, and I have that with some of my installers, that there's no financial component to them qualifying for this money. But it's, we kind of have to judge it a little bit every now and then. If I'm standing up in Woodmore in this $750,000 home, and the lady's going, well, I need a grab bar there, and a grab bar there, and a grab bar there, and a grab bar there, that's where we say on the phone, hey, we try to limit it to 3, sometimes 4, and they go, okay, that's fine. So sometimes we get them to, they go, well, I still want 3 more over there. We say, well, you can pay for that privately. So that's another way to not have people take advantage of the grant funds. We started to do some other stuff. People love handheld showers. We carry a few handheld showers on our truck all the time. It's not that they can't go buy them, it's that they can't install them. That's a lot of what we do. They don't have Teflon tape, they don't know how to do it. You reach up and you take the thing off and water comes out and hits you in the head, and they're not happy with that. So we do a lot of handheld showers. We started to do these assist poles. These are pressure mounted. They don't screw into the floor or ceiling. They're relatively inexpensive. They go in a minute. It helps people get out of bed. It helps people get off the toilet. So that's another thing we've added. And we started to do some small portable ramps for people. One step up in the garage. So if you're in a walker or in a wheelchair, that helps a lot. I want to thank the RAC. You increased my funding this year, so I thank you. And we can maybe start to do some bigger things for people, maybe some larger ramps. We've shied away from ramps and things just because ramps can get very, very expensive. They're about $100 a foot installed. So if someone wants a 21, 25-foot ramp, which isn't uncommon, that's really eating into our grant funding, so we've kind of shied away from that. We started to do ADA height toilets. A lot of people like that instead of the safety frames, so we've started to do a couple of those. Some things we do just because. So I knocked on this lady's door, she opened up the door, and the skin was peeling off her front door. I said, what happened there? She goes, I don't know. It's gotten worse and worse over the months. I don't know how to fix it. So we took some caulk and some screws, and we screwed together her door, and she was very, very happy. We came up on this lady. It's not a good picture. She had a little portico roof over her front entrance, and some windstorm had knocked this thing around. And she goes, I don't know what to do with it. It took 3 of us to pick this up and put it back on the footer. No charge, didn't charge her, didn't charge the grant. I got a call from one of my installers, hey, can you come over to this house and help me for a minute? And it took 3 of us to pick this column up to get it back on the footer. That's just what we do. So you asked, do we see other things? Yes, we do a lot of other little things. I'm not a big fan of those sliding glass doors in people's bathrooms and their showers that have the header that hits you in the head every time you get into the shower, especially for people who are unsteady. Because if you're unsteady and you hit that door, you're going through a big plate glass door. We take those off for free for people. We say, hey, go to Walmart, buy yourself a shower curtain and a rod, put it up. If you have it, we'll put it up. And we take those glass doors off and we carry them down to the basement or wherever, so when the time comes, they can rehang the glass doors. We do a lot of that kind of stuff. Some other unexpected benefits of us doing this program. A lot of times we are the first company in the door that's associated with this group. We're the boots on the ground. We're the first ones in the door. Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's a little gross. But a lot of it is we've referred a lot of people back to AAA. So we're the ones who get that survey form that they have to fill out. And if their ADLs or their IADLs are not on the scale where they should be, the lady who does that for me is on the phone with Lisa immediately. So we've had a lot of stuff where, wow, this lady doesn't really seem like she's getting food or can manage her budget. Or the house is a sty, we need to maybe refer someone to help her clean up a little bit. So that's kind of an unanticipated benefit of you funding my company, because they go, yeah, I need some grab bars, and we're the first ones in the door, and we're the first ones that can kind of take a look around to see what's going on. One of our marketing things is that we go out and do presentations to a lot of the home health care agencies, like Interim and all the other ones that I can't remember right now. And they refer us. We have OTs and PTs that are calling us all the time, because these are people who really can't afford. They're on a fixed income. They have, they can kind of squeak by, and the $99 or whatever per bar that we generally install blows their budget up. So it gets them something that they normally could not afford. And what has now happened after a few years is we are now, because the home health care agencies refer us, we are now a trusted source in the Springs, in El Paso County. And now we're getting former AAA clients who are referring new AAA clients to us. Hey, I was over at Maggie's house the other day, and I really like those grab bars, and can you help me out with that? So now we're starting to get a lot of referral.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, is that these people aren't necessarily looking for the service, they're looking for someone they can trust. It's very difficult for a senior to open up their door to a stranger walking in their house. And the guy who does my grab bar installations is like this big and weighs well in excess of 300 pounds. He's a very large man. He has this huge smile on his face, and he's as friendly as can be, but you open up the door and you go, wow. So I actually pre-warn people. I go, you're going to meet Scott, and Scott is as sweet as the day is long, but he's a very big man. And they go, oh, okay. But we have become a trusted source, and people call us about other things. Can you do this? Can you do that? I referred someone back the other day to Lisa. He needed his lawn mowed. It's overgrown. I can't do it. I can't push the mower anymore. We try not to say no, but we don't mow lawns. So that's someone who now trusted us enough to say, whoever you refer to us for lawn mowing will be a good source. That's it. Questions?
Yeah, I have one.
You're just in El Paso, right?
I try to limit my services to El Paso.
To El Paso.
Every now and then I'll kind of go up to Woodland Park. It's hard to justify the cost to go out to Park to install 2 grab bars.
Yeah, our funding is called Handyman, and we are kind of short on handymen to put up grab bars and things like that in the Bailey area and Fairplay and Guffey and things like that. So, just question.
Yeah, I've debated it, and I'm not sure it makes to drive 2 hours to Guffey.
Yeah.
And then drive 2 hours back for an hour or an hour and a half installation. That's a full day that I've tied up a vehicle and an installer to install 2 grab bars.
I do have a question, though, or maybe even a suggestion. So if there was someone who was willing to be a volunteer, who maybe wasn't as experienced at installing a grab bar, could there be a possibility that maybe they could hang out with Scott for a day?
No problem.
And maybe get a little bit more training and comfort level so that there would be someone who could do it in park, but that way they would actually be able to feel more comfortable doing it, but then also get the experience that they would not be leaving holes punched in people's walls.
Correct. That's always a bad thing.
That's always a bad thing.
And a grab bar, people say, oh, it's a grab bar. A grab bar is a very big commitment on an installer's part. Because once I've drilled a hole in your bathroom wall, I've drilled a hole in your bathroom wall.
Or the tile, No, but that might be a possibility if there's someone who would be willing and maybe has some background in doing, and it's handy, but maybe just needs a little bit more assistance. Maybe
not
we
a
could
problem.
have them shadow them.
I don't know what kind of handyman contracts we've had.
Okay. The other thing I could also help with is, because we do so many grab bars, because I do grab bars not only for AAA, but the VA sends me out to do grab bars also. So we install a lot of them. I buy grab bars in bulk. I buy them by the case. So the UPS guy pulls up, and I have them delivered to my house because my shop is on my property. So I come home and there's a stack of cases of grab bars. I could certainly help someone out with a less expensive grab bar because what I buy them for is a quarter of what you're buying for at Home Depot.
I see. You have a card, sir.
Of course.
One of the other things I might mention that Dave operates under, and it's part of our regulatory process, there are some fairly significant insurance requirements that he has to absorb, and so that figures into the picture a lot because, yeah, if somebody grabs that grab bar and it doesn't stay put, we got issues.
Right. So I carry $1 million liability policy. I carry workers' comp.
I'll talk to Bobby about it and see what kind of contractors we have, subcontractors we have.
Okay.
And we'll see if we can hook them up with you.
And yes, Phyllis, I cover all of El Paso County.
Okay.
So I had some lady call the other day, and I forgot where she said she lived. I said, "Is that in El Paso County?" And she said, "Well, my driveway isn't in El Paso County, but my house is in El Paso County." And I said I would cover El Paso. Yes. So she was out in like Ramah or something. Yeah. So she goes, "Well, I pay El Paso County property taxes,
There you go.
but my driveway is, I forgot what the next county is. It's
Lincoln.
could be." So that's I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll do El Paso County."
I thought her house was in El Paso. That's good.
I want to make special note of Dave mentioned this, but it's really important, the cross-referral component of the work that they do. We don't get into people's homes very often, and you see things when you get into homes that you don't perceive when you talk to them on the phone or when they come into the office. So the ability to refer people to other services that can help them, particularly those that are in great need, is really important. And then the other thing is balancing that cash. We give a finite amount of money for these types of services, and we depend on the provider in large part to make a bit of a value decision. You mentioned the woman in Woodmore with the huge house. We want that money to go to the people that need it the most, those services to the people that need it the most. And by definition, Older American Act money is available to anybody that's over age 60. But there is a finite amount of it, and we want to, if possible, serve the people that need it the most. And these folks do a good job of doing that.
I'm trying to serve as many people as possible. So the people who are really trying to game the system, we try to very politely just shut that down. And my installers are very, very nice, and they understand. They look around and they make a decision at that point as to what they think should go on in that house. So they are somewhat empowered. They're never nasty. They're never mean. And if it comes down to putting in the fourth grab bar, I say put it in. It's not a. But there's a point where So, anything else?
You maybe partially answered my question. I was going to ask about material suppliers, and I was guessing Lowe's and Home Depot, if you get breaks there, and it sounds like you get a real break, but maybe
I
through
buy
the
my
manufacturer.
grab bars directly from Moen.
Yeah.
So I don't go to Home Depot. I go to Home Depot for some hardware, but I buy them from a Moen distributor.
Good.
I guess the last question I would have would be on the installers themselves. Obviously, from what we're hearing from you, and I think the testimony from others that have benefited from the services, that it's very individual-oriented, and you're predisposed to say yes, to assist and to support and then refer. So your installers are really key. So can you give us a couple examples? I mean, you mentioned Scott. I mean, how many do you have, and are they fully committed to you, or are they doing
My
20%
installers
for you?
So I have one guy who installs grab bars, or me. Scott's a full-time employee of mine. He's
Okay.
not a subcontractor.
Okay.
There are some things I subcontract out, like the welding. Matt's a great guy. I've had a background check on him. And he's really just, he goes, he measures, he says, I'll be back in a couple of weeks, because he's really busy. He calls and he comes and installs it. He says, have a nice day. He takes a picture and he bills me. So you get me, you get Scott, you get Monique, who answers the phones and does the billing. She's the one who schedules a lot of the grab bar appointments. She's absolutely wonderful. She's retired. She's a retired veterinarian who happens to be my next door neighbor. So I said to her one day, we were sitting having cocktails. I said, "What do you do during the day?" She goes, "Nothing. I putter around in the garden. I go and work out." I said, "You need a purpose. Come and work for me." And she does all the in-services. She does a lot of legwork that I just don't have time to do.
That's great.
And she's wonderful on the phone.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. Any other last-minute comments or questions? I think we all benefited from this understanding of your program and the key services that you're providing. So thanks again.
Okay,
we
thanks.
appreciate it. All right, the next item then is on to the director's report.
Thanks, Steve. It's what I call our catch-up time of the year. The budget has been set. Dixie got a chance to take a big deep breath after that was done, and we found out, and I promised I wasn't going to talk about budget, but this is kind of relevant. We found out that we are indeed going to get our money in two different chunks. We were hoping that we would have a, quote, normal year and that we would get our federal and state money all in one option letter like we should normally. We did find out that the federal money came in so late that it could not be processed in time for us to start spending it on July 1. So hopefully we will not get it in 4 or 5 chunks like we did last year. It'll come in 2 pieces, but it doesn't impact providers at all. But it does impact Casey, our accountant, quite a bit because she's going to have to do a little bit of shuffling for the month of July and possibly August. We have started the process of writing our 4-year plan. Actually, we haven't started writing it yet. We've started gathering information. I don't know, how many people did anybody get one of those in the mail?
I think I did.
Did you?
What is it?
This is an advance notice of a survey that would be sent to you called the CASOA. CASOA is the Community Assessment of, I wrote it down, hang on. Community Assessment Survey of Older Adults. It's a fairly comprehensive survey. It's 6 pages that's sent out at random to folks over age 60 in our region. There should have been roughly 600 sent out in Park. I think there were about 600 sent out in Teller and roughly 1,200 sent out in El Paso County. Those proportions of surveys that are sent out don't have anything to do with the number of people in the county. There's a minimum size you have to get a representative sample. So I would suspect that Park County, almost everybody probably got one that's over 60. This card would come in the mail. And then about a week or week and a half later, the survey would come. And this card is just to alert you that it's a legitimate process. It has my name on there. I did not sign all 2,400 of those yellow cards. They printed that on there. And they're referred back to us for questions. And we've had very few. Actually, it's fairly self-explanatory. It is very detailed. As I said, it's 6 pages. I don't know, probably pretty close to 100 questions in that survey about your habits, your needs. Norma?
How long ago was that card mailed?
It would have been probably 3 to 4 weeks ago, somewhere in that vicinity. What I'm holding up is one of the, I think so far I've got about 100 back that were improperly addressed. Person didn't live there anymore, something to that effect. What they'll do is at the end, I will give them that number, and then they will send out that number again to another set of folks. So there may be some that come later on. CASOA is a pretty expensive project. The Colorado Association of Area Agencies on Aging got a grant from Next 50 Foundation out of Denver to do the survey. It was about $220,000 to complete the survey. They sent out, I believe, somewhere in the vicinity, somewhere between 10 and 15,000 of these surveys statewide. And then we will get the results back in October, and those will be disaggregated by county. I believe we split El Paso into rural El Paso versus metro El Paso. And we get a lot of data. Coupled with that, in the fall, we will be doing, or late summer and fall, we will be doing what they call community conversations. Some of us call them focus groups, with small groups of people, and we'll probably be eliciting some of your support to help get people to those groups. And those are more informal conversations, and they allow us to kind of fill in the cracks of things that wouldn't show up on the survey. What do you think your greatest needs are, and why? The why doesn't come up very much on the survey. It's the what. So it will allow us to do that. And the end product being us producing a 4-year plan, which will come before this group sometime in the latter part of this year. It's due to the state the first part of March. So we'll get the CASOA results in October. We will do most of the writing through November, December, and fine-tune it and then get it to the state by their deadline in March. The state uses that to compile a 4-year plan that they submit to the feds. So it's kind of a chain of events that happens over the course of that time period. And it's, for all intents and purposes, it is strategic planning. We like to get pretty detailed with the results that we use out of that. Was anybody around during the last 4-year plan? I know Guy was the one that wrote it. Yeah. It's a huge project. So we will certainly be eliciting some help when we get down to the end to have folks take a look at it, see simple things, just somebody to proofread it, folks who will have an opportunity to kind of give us input as to whether they think that those statistics are valid and should be included. So that's kind of the update on that. It's coming down the pike, and we'll be getting full swing probably with those community conversations sometime in the next couple months.
Hey, Joe, question. I can't remember if it was the last round, if it was the round before that, but I do remember with all the information being collected that as the council, we sat and we put, the big posters around the room and all of the different programs that we have, and we all put sticky notes as to which ones we thought were the most important. And it was one of the most excruciatingly difficult things I've ever gone through, because how do you determine a hearing aid over dental work? I mean, how it was so difficult, but very valuable. So and I don't know at what point, if that's something that you feel that we'll need to do.
That will be one of those community conversations. One of those focus groups will be focused around professionals and or lay professionals. Some of our group, our mix is kind of a little of each. Where this particular group, a lot is professionals and it's folks who work in the field, or excuse me, it's seniors and folks who work in the field. So we want to get everybody's opinion. We want a broad spectrum, evenly balanced, and we will try to do it geographically balanced as well. We want to get up to Teller, we want to get to Park, we want to get the impressions of everybody.
I just felt it was really powerful for us, because looking at here's the funding, here's what we have, really where are our priorities? What are the most important things that we feel as representing what this agency does? And it was very hard, but if things making sure people were getting fed, making sure they're getting transported, it was really hard. But
it is hard work. And Jerry just mentioned it sounds like the TRS's work, and it's used in the TRS's work because we prioritize based on what those objectives are. There's not enough money to do everything in the world, so we have to kind of figure out what's the most important and also what's the best bang for the buck. One last thing real quick. Many of you probably at least heard about, if you did not attend, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which was June the 15th. We had a strong presence in Teller and El Paso counties. Silver Key had a great event over at their place that was kind of mostly Silver Key, but I know Adult Protective Services was involved in that as well in helping sponsor that. There was another event at the park in Woodland Park that APS in Teller County and I always forget the name, the Golden Bridge Network participated in that as well. So it's an opportunity to just highlight the amount and challenges there are with elder abuse in both El Paso, Teller, actually our region in general, and Park, and bring to the forefront some of the challenges that we have. Financial abuse in particular is an extremely challenging thing to, number one, detect, number two, prosecute, and investigate as well. So we try to bring the awareness up, and it ends up being as much a prevention entity as it does a after the fact thing. So we try to make people aware of what's going on out there. There's a lot more challenges than we realize. That's all I had. Does anybody have any questions for me? Laura. The new contracts will be coming to you by the end of the week. I said that, and Lisa's probably shuddering behind her because she's working on them right now. But yeah, they, as I said, we had challenges with that information relative to the state and the federal funding we got just recently. The state was so hoping that they would only have to do one option letter, and so they held out and held out and held out till the last minute, and finally they just couldn't hold out any longer. And I think after they started that process, about 3 days later, the federal funding came in. So we will have them to you as quick as we possibly can. Some of those contracts required revisions for one reason or another, and I will tell you that we're doing a lot more work on the front end of contracts this year than we have in the past. Oftentimes what happens is we go to assess somebody 4 months into the contract year, and we find out that maybe they had made some unrealistic estimates or approximations on what their cost per unit is, or how many people they were going to serve, or a variety of different things. We're trying to help bring a little bit of reality back into that system based on our experience, because we've gone through one or two of these, and say that that's a little high. You're going to get yourself in trouble if you have a CPU that high, or are you sure you can really do that for $7.86 a unit? Everybody else is doing it for $15. So we try to bring a little bit of that into play, and hopefully we'll save a lot of surprises on down the road.
Joel, did you have a question? Did you point at me? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Joe, the elder abuse convention or forum, what was the outcome of that again?
It was two public forums, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I think the two events were a little bit different. The one in Woodland Park was booths where in the park, and then they had a balloon release and a couple speakers. The one that was at Silver Key was an all-day event with information provided by a variety of speakers, really high-quality event, actually. Kent Matthews was one of the speakers. They had Chuck Schakowsky from the police department. They had a variety of folks involved. I know Dayton Romero was very actively involved in putting that together, and I got real positive feedback from virtually everybody I talked to that attended all or part of that event.
Okay, and this was just for the purpose of
Public
highlighting
awareness.
a public awareness. Okay, that's what I wanted. Thank you.
Any other comments on the director's report? So from the chair perspective, I'd just like to thank Joe Ruth for chairing the meeting in Guffey, and for those that attended the meeting in Guffey that I was unable to attend due to my vacation in Alaska, which was great, by the way. Oh, it was terrible. It really was, yeah. Hey, anyway. So I'd also like to, I should have said this at the outset, I'd really like to thank Dixie and the other members of the Technical Review Subcommittee for going through and doing the financials and providing that information to the director so that the AAA services can be continued, sustained, uninterrupted. Really an important piece, and again, thank you very much for doing that, Dixie. It's a huge responsibility, and it was well done. The only other comment I had was, I think we've talked briefly in the past, Wendy, about the members and the terms that they have, so that if we could have a list of that, or maybe a discussion that's maybe by the next meeting, so we know that, okay, so I don't even remember exactly when I came on and what my term is and how many terms everybody else has. I think that would be an important piece to have as we look at the new fiscal year and the new year of activities. Just to know, okay, how many years have we been on? Jerry, how long has he been on? Is he going to go? Do we have to find another? He can't get off, I know, just like you can't get off either, right?
I'm looking for my success.
Okay, so again, it's just,
We'll have an excuse because you're terrible.
if we could just make a note that on the agenda, we'd want to have a discussion on member terms, okay?
I know before Carrie.
I know before Carrie left, she sent me the spreadsheet. I will just need to be in town for a little while to actually go through it, to actually report back to it next month.
Okay,
Yes.
that would be great. I think that's really an important piece. Any other comments, ending comments? Again, I'd like to thank presenters and the HSA providers here for providing their comments. Yes?
I just want to thank the RAC Review Committee for affording us the shiny, bright light out. It's not an Alpha, it's a Forester for our clients to provide transportation. It's just very helpful, especially on the long trip to Colorado Springs instead of using our large buses. So it's almost up and ready. Got some wrap on it and got some nice seat protectors on it, neoprene, so it's ready to roll.
Lisa's referring to Telesenior Coalition received some carryover funding from, actually 2016 is where it came from, when it finally got here. And they were able to provide something that's a little bit more efficient than driving that big bus down the pass.
Okay, so if there are no questions on a few comments that I had, the next thing is the calendar of events, Medicare 101 and Social Security 101 classes. They will be coming up in the near future.
I almost brought a list in, and I decided that was not nearly as good as you folks stopping in the lobby on your way out and taking a look. There's a big poster there that has all of our upcoming classes. Those we've been, as many of you know, we have started offering the 101 classes and the Social Security classes in the evening, and it's been tremendously successful. We've had huge numbers. I think we had 70-some signed up for the last Social Security event. So if you want to know the dates, take a peek in the lobby. The Social Security classes are actually presented by a woman from the Social Security Administration. She comes up from Pueblo and does those. We offer her space and advanced notification, a little bit of marketing. The 101s are done by our staff here, and they have refined that down to a really effective way to disseminate information. And we're working at getting that out as far as we can get it. Norma.
There are some other locations, too, that those classes are held at, some of the libraries and so forth. So
thank you for reminding me. Yeah, we are also taking those shows on the road as well.
Have you all been able to make any progress toward having tapes or this kind of thing made available for Park County?
We actually talked about that at the last meeting.
Yes.
We are going to, one of the challenges with those 101 classes is we tend to have, every once in a while you'll get an individual in there that wants to focus the whole class on their particular situation.
Focus,
and so when you get a tape of that, it's not quite as effective, but we are going to tape the 101 classes, and if we can get one that's a good, concise version, we'll put that on the website so the folks will have access to that.
Good, okay.
Joe, I just want to let you know that I have posted the flyer that you put out regarding these classes, the times and the locations and so forth. We've posted those at the Citizen Service Center, and it has garnered a lot of interest by several different folks, not only citizens using the facilities, but also a lot of our staff, because a lot of our staff are in that time of life, should we say, where retirement is very close, and they have found the information very helpful. So it is making a difference what you're doing.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And, you know, one of the biggest challenges we run into is folks don't realize the penalties that are incurred when you don't sign up appropriately for Medicare. And when you say the word penalties, that gets people's attention sometimes. So it's very, very helpful. Thank you. We appreciate that. And we appreciate all the community support. We've had wonderful support from ENT and all the other partners that have been involved with those programs. And I anticipate that as all those boomers hit 65, those classes are going to continue to grow and grow.
Anything else? If not...
I have one other thing
go
I
ahead.
forgot to mention, and I was just reminded of it. Just got a notice yesterday from Cheryl Snell at El Paso County that the position, the director of the El Paso Fountain Valley Senior Center has been posted. Dennis Crosser, who many of you know quite well, is going to retire in the near future, and that position is open. So I will send that out to the RAC, and if you can kind of disseminate that to everybody you know, that's a wonderful program down there, and I'm sure they would love to have a good crop of folks come in to take a look at that position.
And with that, I think we have a note that the next meeting is on July 26th here. And if there's no other discussion or comments or questions, I entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Mr. Novak. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Norma. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Did you do Alaska on the ground or do?
Did both. Yeah, so we flew from Seattle to Fairbanks.
Okay, we did that.
And we did the 5 days out of there, so we had went on the Taku River cruise,